let's talk a little bit about property. So how did you first get into property? How did that start, and where you're sort of at now with it?
Yeah, so, and it kind of ties into the family thing, because and death, really, you know, just to talk about that for a little bit. The first seed for me that was sown in property was through my dad. My dad was a property investor and developer in like the 80s and 90s, and then he moved back into his first love, engineering. But
was he sorry to interrupt there, Charlie, was he, what scale was he doing property? Do you know? Was he quite
he was building small developments like blocks of flats and houses around Cheshire, and so, you know, not on a huge scale. And I think in the end, I think he packed it in because I think he just got a bit sick of the building side of it, you know, materials going missing on site, like, you know, dealing with trades and all of that, you know, that fun stuff. But when I was 21, me and my best mate were living together, and we were talking about, you know, let's become billionaires before we're 30, what we're going to do. And we were like, right, let's buy an end terrace in Bradford, because he's from Bradford, and we'll turn the downstairs into a shop and the upstairs into a flat. Like, I was like, great idea. Let's write to the only person we knew who knew anything about property, which was my dad at the time. And basically wrote to my dad, just said, what do you think of this idea? Me and Rory think it could be a good way to, you know, make a bit of money. And my dad wrote back to me like an email, proper business like, you know, but it was like a father's letter to a son. He was like, right, son, property is a great route to wealth. You make your money when you buy. You need your little black book of trades. Don't be paying architects a percentage, pay them a fixed fee. You know, there's all these little golden nuggets that at the time I was like, oh, this is good, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And so I kept that, and that was basically the last thing I ever had in writing from my dad. 3 days later, he was in a helicopter crash and basically died on impact. And so that was the very last thing that I had that was kind of his sort of letter to me. And at his funeral, my friend Rory just said, keep hold of that, because one day that'll be a blueprint for you to build a property business. And so, you know, like having a death so close to me in my early 20s obviously had a big impact. And you sort of have two choices at that point. You know, you kind of wallow and sort of woe is me and go down a path of sort of self-pity and things like that, or you can sort of try and look at it another way and say, you know, what would your dad want, and how can you live out a legacy that will make him proud, you know, and draw on all the privileges I had up to that point. Because I think I was 23 actually, I think at the time. But you know, I chose to look at it as I'm grateful for the years I did have with him, you know. And yes, I'd love to have him as a business mentor going forwards, but life happens and things will happen in your life that you don't have control over. And that was one of those things. So that then took me on a process. And I realized this is a long-winded way of answering how I got into property. That then took me over the next 5-10 years of going and finding advice and support from really like father figures in business. And I wasn't shy, you know, I asked direct questions because I didn't have my dad. I couldn't go to him anymore. So I decided to go to people I respected within business. And then when kids came along, thought, right, property, dig out the old blueprint and let's see what we can do. And so long story shorter, I then read books, podcasts, went and did a few courses, and got myself a coach and a mentor and somebody who could help take us on that next step. So that's it. And then really we started investing kind of sort of 2017 time. That was when we really kicked on with our investing.
Pushed on. I'm sure, just to go back a step as well, I'm sure you would be proud as well, Charlie. Like, I don't know you that well, but great dad, great, you know, very, very knowledgeable in property and obviously successful in property and business. So I'm sure you would, mate.